Hello and welcome back to another Walking Dead video, and today we talk about 10 characters that you probably did not know only existed in the show and are not in the comics. So let's jump right into this with number 10, Henry. And Henry's a pretty big character in the show. He is basically the sole catalyst for everything that happens in season 9. But you'd be surprised to find out that Henry doesn't exist in the comics. In the comics, everything that Henry does, beside his death, is actually what Carl does. Henry in the show is just a replacement for Carl, as Carl does not die in the comics. Henry even saves other characters like Ezekiel by taking their death. Number 9 is RJ, and RJ is another character that only exists because Carl is dead. With the departure of Andrew Lincoln in season 9, they created RJ for the sole purpose of having a Grimes on the show. If Rick never left, or if Carl was alive, RJ wouldn't exist, and that is why he doesn't exist in the comics, because Rick never leaves, Carl never dies. There's no reason to add another Grimes to the story. Number 8 is Jadis and the Scavengers. All of them just don't exist. Jadis might be a major part of the All Out War arc, and be the whole reason why Rick survives in season 9. However, she just wasn't in the comics. There's no need to save Rick in season 9, because in the counterparts, Rick doesn't disappear before the Whisper arc. He's there up until the Commonwealth arc. And the All Out War arc is so much smaller in the comics, there is no rogue third faction, and Jadis was just created to add drama to the war seasons. Number 7 is Beth, and she is more or less a combination of many of Herschel's children. In the comics, Beth doesn't exist, and Herschel has many other children like twins and sons, but in the show, all we see is Beth and Maggie. Beth is a major character in the early seasons, and has a lasting impact on many characters like Maggie and Daryl. However, the closest things to Beth in the comics are the twins, who don't even make it past the prison arc, and they have a very dark ending to their story. Number 6 is Alden, and he does actually originally have a comic book counterpart called Dante. However, with Maggie leaving in season 9, that drastically changed Alden. They set up in season 8 that he would maybe be Maggie's new kind of companion, or just close advisor, a lot like Dante in the comics. However, when she left, they changed Alden to be a generic hilltopper, they made him the blacksmith, and they made him a stepdad to Adam. They gave him a relationship with Enid and stuff like that. And they also brought Dante in, but then changed him into a Whisperer. Because of Maggie leaving, they definitely changed Alden into a completely different character and stopped him from being a name swap version of a character in the show. In 5th place is Enid, and she's another character that doesn't exist. She solely exists because of another major character who was killed off way too early in the show, and that is Sophia. Sophia is a major character in the comics that make it all the way to the end. She doesn't die. She actually ends up with Carl in the final issue. However, in the show, Sophia dies in season 2 with the iconic scene of her walking out the barn. This led to the show having a big issue with Carl having no love interest. So they created Enid in season 6 to be Carl's love interest. They set up the dynamic between them two and having some sort of romantic relationship between the two in season 7 and 8. However, Carl died off, and this changed Enid to become Alden's new romantic interest before she was quickly killed off in the fair. Number 4 is Simon, and he is one of the major antagonists of All Out War in season 7 and 8, and Negan's right hand man. However, Simon simply is just there to do the evil things that Negan did in the comics. A lot of things that Simon does are just things that Negan does in the comics, and he just exists so that it'll be easier to redeem Negan in later seasons, because he wouldn't be doing all this evil stuff during the war, as they gave it all to Simon. Number 3 is Jerry, the comic relief of the show, and the eventual king of Kingdom 2.0. However, Jerry just doesn't exist. He doesn't even have any counterpart. A lot of characters on this list have some sort of counterpart or arcs that they take from other characters from the comics. Jerry doesn't. Everything that Jerry does is unique to the show, with him being the right-hand man to Ezekiel, never happens, and with him rebuilding the community of the kingdom, that never happens also, as the kingdom doesn't even fall in the comics. Jerry is a major character, but he is just here to be the comic relief of the show, and that was spread around to other characters in the comics. Number 2 is Sasha, and she's a massive character but doesn't exist in the comics. Sasha is actually a replacement to Tyrese's daughter. In the comics, Tyrese doesn't have a sister, he has a daughter, but in the show they changed that father-daughter dynamic to brother and sister. In the show, Sasha does do a lot of things, and she takes a lot of Andrea's story arc and a bit of Holly's near the end of her journey in season 6 and 7. And now at number 1 is Daryl. He is the face of The Walking Dead. He's been in all 11 seasons, and he doesn't even exist in the comics. He is a completely unique character, and only exists because Norman Reedus' performance for Merle was so good, they had to make him a brand new character so that Norman Reedus could be on the show, because they gave the world to Merle to Michael Rooker, but they still wanted Norman Reedus on the show, so they created Daryl. He takes a lot of Tyrese's story arcs in the early seasons, and then he takes Rick's himself once Rick leaves. Daryl is the face of The Walking Dead, and he's not even in the comics. And that is my list on 10 characters that you probably did not know were not in the comics. So did you know all them, or did you not? And if you did, what 10 other characters do you know are not in the comics? I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions, anything on The Walking Dead down below, and make sure to like and subscribe to help out the channel and to keep up to date with all things Walking Dead. But this is it for me today, so goodbye, peace out, and I'll talk to you in my next video.